How y'all doing?
Hi.
What's going on? Hello, hello, hello.
I just wanted to say I love the playlist. Please send me that link.
I got you. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the songs to it. I'm gonna send you the link.
Nice.
I got you.
That was really good.
Just trying to get you all in the mood to speak, man. To open up, Mr. Aaron, how you doing, bro? You're still muted.
It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta on a Saturday, so I'm excited.
We got NYC, we got Atlanta, we got the Bay Area, we got LA. We are all around the world right now. We got tech and Black excellence all around the world. So before we start off, whoever would like to start, just tell the people who you are, how long you've been in the tech industry, and what exactly you do.
Nice. I can go first. Hi, guys. My name is Kiana Brown. I'm from Oakland, California. I've been in recruiting for a little over 6 years now. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to join Big Tech. And now I'm a recruiter at Facebook, a technical recruiter at Facebook. So I primarily support building out product teams across all of our consumer-facing products.
Thank you.
Sure, I can go next. Born and raised here, born and raised in Decatur, Georgia.
I'll go second. Or you can go.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I was born and raised in Decatur, Georgia. Went to school at Morehouse College, and I also got my big break in technology company right afterwards, working for Oracle in sales in 2016. Worked there for a couple of years. I worked at Deloitte in consulting, and finally got to Microsoft in March of this year. So I've been in recruiting for about 9 months.
Okay. I'm Lola Folletti. I have been in the tech industry or tech adjacent for about 2 years now. I'm originally from Columbia, Maryland, but I've been living in New York City for the last 8 years. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much. All right, and so we'll go with Kiana. Tell the people how you got into tech.
It's not a short story, but I'll try to make it pretty short. So as you mentioned, I did start off in retail sales right after college. So I graduated during our last recession in 2009. And so at that time, it was pretty tough to find a corporate job. So I entered retail sales, and then I went into retail banking. And a lot of what I learned there, I didn't realize at the time, was preparing me for my roles today. So just like the sales mentality, being a consultative person, working in ambiguous times, those are all like skills that I was learning that I didn't realize led me to today. And I'll just be completely honest, like I didn't have a goal of joining tech initially in college. I don't know why. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm here, but that wasn't the goal. It's just literally, it's kind of like I stumbled into like the world of tech. But so after working in retail for a while, I started to notice that a lot of my colleagues were moving into recruiting, agency recruiting. And so I did a little bit of research to learn more about what agency recruiting was and how you have the opportunity to kind of blend my sales background mixed with like wanting to make an impact in people's lives. So initially I was selling like banking products and affecting people on the finance side. And I thought, wow, it'd be a cool opportunity to actually make an impact for people within their careers. And so I saw that a lot of my coworkers had been moving into agency recruiting. I worked in agency recruiting for 3.5 years. Loved it and wanted to move into more of an in-house recruiter role where I would have the opportunity to learn more about the company and be really an expert consultative partner to my hiring managers. And so I saw that, you know, a lot of the people that were in agency recruiting were moving into tech companies. And I go, okay, like I love the culture. I admire the leaders in tech. So I think this is a great fit for me. Started to do a little bit more research, networking, and I think a mixture of the skills, like I said, that I've learned throughout my career mixed with like me just keeping a good network and building those relationships with my previous coworkers is how I ultimately landed into my first role, which was a recruiter at Google, and then now Facebook.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you for taking us down that road. I'm telling y'all, man, life is at intersections, and she's showing y'all through her words. We'll ask all of you all that question. So Lola, if you would like to.
Yeah. So I got into tech by accident. So I started off, I was a college dropout. I dropped out of college in 2014 when I couldn't afford it anymore. So I started off working at a nanny agency, and then I started my HR career doing like recruiting and like all the general HR stuff for them. And then I left that company to go work in fashion. So I was working at a retail managing consulting firm. And then what I would do, I would do recruiting on behalf of my clients who were based in Europe. And then it was a lot of like retail stuff, but then also in-house too as well. And then I quit my job because I had a horrible boss, and then I ended up in innovation, tech innovation consulting. And so I started doing HR there. And so Accenture actually acquired that company, which is how I like got into the bigger leagues. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I feel like everything that I have done so far has kind of like, similar to how Kiana said, has like prepped me for where I am currently.
Wow. Wow. That's what's up, man. Listen, as long as you follow your purpose, life will lead you to the next step, y'all. So that's living proof of that as well. We're gonna go to Mr. Aaron Brown.
Of course. So with technology, I always knew I wanted to work for a technology company in the industry. During my time in college, I was actually my own startup, unsuccessful startup in college. It didn't go my way, but I learned a lot, networked, and also senior year came around looking for jobs, applied for Microsoft, didn't get it, got rejected, but kept the networking, kept the relationship with the recruiters and also hiring managers. But got into Oracle though, with sales, technology sales, and I'm so glad it happened that I was able to learn more about the technology industry, how a company actually works. And if you know how to sell products, you always have a job, because that's the most important firm of any type of company, making money. But after working for 2 years, got promoted, met a lot of great people, living in Austin, Texas, came back to Atlanta, worked for Deloitte. I was actually implementing Oracle software, which was great. But I always had my eye on Microsoft and those connections and mentors that I met 4 years ago at HR event in Atlanta. Microsoft is growing a lot here. Applied, had the hiring day, did my thing, and started in March right during the pandemic here. So yeah, so it's a great little journey.
You got a pandemic-proof position, man. You good. And what I would say is, like, what his story just told you all is, like, no doesn't mean it's a failure. No may just mean it's not for you at the time. It may just mean not now. And he took his no's and turned them into lessons. And look at how all of that came together to make him into the person that he is today. So be okay with starting your startup and be proud of saying, yeah, I started a failed startup, because if you fail to try, that's much worse than not starting at all. So we're going to get into the next question. We'll start with Lola. So what's a common mistake you see from many candidates that come in without a tech background?
So because I work in such a niche like area, like innovation, there are a lot of people who are looking to pivot into that tech innovation space. And I think that for that space in particular, what I've seen is people don't know how to story tell. If you're looking to pivot into an industry that you don't, not to say that you don't have any experience in it, but like you haven't worked in before, I think the most important thing is to like position yourself as someone who has so many transferable skills, and like tell the story as to like why you want to move into this industry. Because I'll get a lot of people who maybe like used to work in like maybe defense, or who worked in like banking or finance, and now it's like innovation consulting, or like, why do you want to, we have clients like Google and Microsoft. And it's like, how can you use your skill to, you know, innovate for these clients when you're not showing me on resume or on your cover letter why you're looking to make that change and impact. So I think that the failure to tell their stories is one of the things that makes me lose interest very quickly.
Really nice take on that. Anyone else who wants to chime in? This isn't an interview, this is a conversation. So y'all feel free whenever y'all want to chime into something, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I'll go. So I think there's two parts that come to mind when I see candidates that haven't worked in tech before. So one, I would say just like the corporate structure. A lot of candidates don't really understand the corporate structure of the company that they're applying for and where they actually fit in. So, you know, what your title may be in healthcare or any other industry, it might not be that same title at a tech company. So I think candidates could possibly look into doing a little bit more research on the corporate structure and just finding out where they see themselves fitting in. And then once you actually do get an interview, however you looked up and got an interview, I see a lot of candidates that don't really understand the types of interviews that they're going to have and the signals that we're going to be looking for in those interviews. So those are two common things that I see from candidates outside of tech.
Very good points, y'all. So we got storytelling, knowing how to tell your story and configure it in a way that it looks like, okay, he or she has the non-technical skills to get into the industry, and knowing where you fit. Like, didn't even think about that. Knowing where you fit, that's very, very important because your position can interchange depending on what organization you're with. So knowing where you fit in the story, and also just knowing what kinds of interviews, because there's several types of interviews that you're going to go on. Not all interviews are the same. No one person's the same either. Do your research. Mr. Aaron, do you have a take on this, or? Yeah.
I guess my biggest thing is just I love seeing candidates do their homework. Even though you come from a non-tech background, there's so many opportunities to get certifications and add that to your resume. I mean, it's just I love seeing on your resume, on your LinkedIn, like how passionate are you about technology, even though you're not in the industry. I love to see it. I can tell a better story about the candidate to the hiring manager if you give it to me.
Love it. So Aaron, back to you real quick. What are some myths about how to land a job or career in tech?
It's a good one. Some myths about how to land a job in tech. I guess coming from a big school, having a traditional background. Probably the most successful people I see or I know, leaders, they don't come from that. They're like Lola. They might have dropped out of college. They worked service jobs out of college, different jobs out of college. But I love seeing what I've seen from people is that they grind. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, not coming from that big school, that big college.
Very, very true. Very true. Anyone else got a take on that?
I think a myth that I always hear is that you have to have a CS degree. And that's, I mean, obviously, if you're like looking to be an engineer, then you need coding. But a lot of times, even in product, I'll get people that go, "Oh, I don't have a CS degree," and that's just not the case anymore. Where you need that degree to work in tech.
Okay.
And sorry for those that don't know, CS is computer science degree.
I was like, I think everybody, I wasn't sure if I should answer.
You never know.
We're going to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Let me see. Kiana, why do you think there's so little representation of people that look like us, Black and brown people in tech?
Good question. I don't know. That's actually a loaded question when I think about it.
Sure.
But I think like what comes to mind would probably be just like exposure. So I'm from Oakland. I grew up in Oakland, and it's probably maybe 30 minutes away from Silicon Valley with no traffic, right? And so if I think about like, if I were to just survey probably 100 Black and brown kids around like in urban areas and ask them like, how many people do you know that work for one of the apps that are on one of your electronic devices, right? If I were to ask that question, I would imagine a big portion of those kids would probably say no one. And it's different where, like, I know now there's a lot of mentorship programs or like things that some of the more privileged kids get involved in, but a lot of people are not being exposed in the Black and brown community. And when I say exposed, I don't mean like going online and researching, what it's like to work in tech or having the one-off like mentor session. I mean like having a cousin, a friend, or someone that you're really close to that works in tech, so you get a better understanding of like the language that's being used in technology. What does like a top performer look like, or just kind of seeing your close friend or family and what it's like to be successful in the tech industry. I think we just lack that exposure. And so even just when I think about like when I was in school and most of the big tech companies were actually being launched while I was in high school, and there was no computer science program. There was no like awareness around like these companies that were being launched 30 minutes away from my high school. And so I think even still to this day, we're not doing a good job of one, just kind of taking on kids from the Black and brown community and being a sponsor, showing them, bringing them to campus and showing them what it looks like and what it feels like to actually work in tech. So that would be like one of the biggest things that I see is a problem.
No, that's real. I do think we need to reach back more. We need to, one more move forward. We need to reach back and say, hey, this is what it looks like. Let me just go ahead and put you in the room, and you can have this. This is what you want, so people can see it. I do agree with that for sure. Anyone else have a take on that?
Yeah, I mean, to take that one step further, like, okay, now they're interested in working in tech, but then when you look at a lot of the recruiters, they're not as many recruiters of color than there are white recruiters. And so when we're talking about, people who maybe might not have the traditional background or who might not have studied computer science, I mean, me as a Black woman, like I tend to be more lenient because I look at people holistically and not just as like a degree. But then it's like when you come to white recruiters, and this is a conversation that I've had with several recruiters at Accenture. It's like they're looking for their own, and so it's like a name could throw them off. It's like, okay, well, this person doesn't have exactly what we're looking for. I'm not going to be flexible. And so I think representation on the inside is another way that we can propel our people further, because obviously we're going to go to bat for our people more.
That's so real, so real. We need more people. We need more of you all. We need more recruiters. We need more people that are going to be those at the gate to allow the gate doors to open, like my guy Aaron's doing as well. Aaron, you got to take on this?
I do, kind of taking two steps off of Kiana and Lola said. I think culture of the other company is important too, because you can bring the talent in, but if you don't have that structure where they have that career development or that want to that fit in, they're not going to stay. You're not going to really be able to retain those employees. They'll go somewhere else where they feel better. They feel more inclusive. So that's just one thing I like to say.
Y'all just, man, y'all know each other before this? Y'all know each other so well with that. And so we're going to jump into the next one. Going off of, this conversation, of course, there's been, without saying too much, there's been a lot going on this year that has, just opened the wound of 400 plus years of a lot going on in America. So a lot of big corporations, including the NFL, including MSNBC, so many more, have said that they're going to do their part to bring more Black and brown people into their organizations to leadership roles or just in roles, period. Do you all think that is true? And if so, what have you seen companies doing, maybe your company doing, to make sure that they keep that promise?
So I'll jump in on this one. I think in many ways it is true, like the intention is good, but then because they don't have the people to kind of like make it well-rounded, it kind of falls flat a little bit. For example, you'll see a lot of companies creating I&D task forces, and they're relying on the unpaid additional labor of their employees of color to kind of like round it out. And I mean, personally within Accenture, They do a pretty good job of I&D. And to take it a step further, like, so I work for the What If Innovation Consulting practice within Accenture, and I've been heavily involved in that because I didn't just do recruiting. Like, it's all about people, strategy, culture. I'm a true HR like generalist, and one of the things that I had to do this year was really sit with leadership and be like, here are the statistics. Here are the interviews. Maybe like here's some notes from interviews last year. Here are some candidates of color. Like, why is this not happening? Why does leadership look like this? And it's asking them like really, really hard questions, pressing them. And it's from those answers that we're able to make progress. And so it's looked like us bringing people externally that we can pay rather than just like having employees whose job it isn't weigh in on it. It's looking like going to places where we traditionally wouldn't hire. So maybe instead of like having like a campus plug, it would be, is there a Black Students Union on campus? Can we go to them directly? So it's actually like going to the source. And I think our UK office has done a really good job of that because there's so many Afro-Caribbean resources in the UK. And so we've been kind of following their example on the US end to really like go to the roots, go to schools, kind of build a pipeline, not just from experienced hires, but for campus hires too. And so I'm really hoping to see a change. I'm moving into their onboarding and integration division. And so I'm hoping to welcome more Black people and, you know, kind of be a friendly face. But yeah, it's the relying on the unpaid emotional labor of their Black and brown employees that I've kind of had an issue with. And so I'm hoping that that changes as well.
Yeah. I'll piggyback on that. Oh, sorry. But I'll piggyback on that. So from like, to answer your question, yes, I agree that I have seen changes being made. It feels a little different, but I think a lot of the initiatives are like short term from what I see. So when I say that, it just sometimes feel as if like we're recycling a pool of candidates that are already in technology, Black and brown people that already are in tech. They went to some of the top schools, and we're recycling that pool of people when, like Lola said, in order to like broaden the pool, we need to really switch up the game. And I think I'm also not the biggest fan of leaning on Black and brown employees to make this change because it can be exhausting. I think a lot of this stems from leadership. So you can have a Black or brown recruiter going, hey, let's be a little bit more lenient with candidates looking at non-traditional backgrounds, but it's not going to work if we don't have buy-in from leadership. And so I think a lot of the efforts where it's coming from leadership to go, we need to make some changes, and this is going to be like the expectations moving forward. And so I think that is going to make more of a longer term impact when we're like looking at those candidates that come from the non-traditional backgrounds, or looking at, you know, those other industries to go, hey, these are the type of candidates that'll be successful working in tech. That doesn't start at my level. It literally starts from leadership.
Factual. We need everybody on board. Leadership top down. All right, Mr. Aaron.
I have to agree. I don't know. I feel like Microsoft had a crazy time, coronavirus, and then with everything with the George Floyd protests. And there was my first 2 weeks. I remember I was first time hearing my VP talk of my organization. He was talking about social justice, and it was so weird because I had these conversations in the workplace at all. And I don't know. I've seen more improvements. I've seen the push from leadership, but I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest thing I saw was the CEO, Satya Nadella. He gave us like a 5-year plan of increasing employee black and brown employees, and also increasing Black and brown leadership by 50% in the next 5 years. Like, this is what we're going to do. Like, this is expectations. Hold me accountable for it. I mean, which is cool. And also here in Microsoft Atlanta, it's a black city. It is a black city, and it's changing. It's gentrifying. So it's kind of cool that we have all of these HBCU initiatives and looking to find diverse employees. And honestly, I'm so new to recruiting. I'm just trying. I'm figuring it out myself. Like all my ideas. It's not traditional. I swear it's not. But it gets candidates in and it brings people in, which is cool.
Love it, love it, love it. So reshaping the pipeline, allowing leadership, telling leadership that we need them to step up and that we need them from the top down to let people know we are going to make the changes and this is how. And then to Aaron's point, hold them accountable as well. Like you got your guy who set up the 5-year plan, and then learn on your side as a recruiter how you can be a part of making a change. All great points. So another part of being a recruiter is you see all the resumes come across the table. The resume is very impactful. So talk to me about some simple tips that can help someone be ahead of the pack when their resume goes from online to probably a browser.
I don't know. I like to see who they are as people, not just like I don't. It's one thing to have your work, like you have your work listed, you have your school listed, but I guess where I work is a little more on the quirky side, and like I want to see what your passions are. I want to see what else you have going on, because there's so many resumes that look exactly the same. You need to make it listed, whether it's like how it's like situated, like whether it's like if you have your hobbies listed. Like I want something that will you know, draw my attention. It's not enough to just like have all the boxes ticked. Like I don't know. I'm like a really perceptive person, and so like it's not just the what is on it; it's the how it's put together. Like you can learn so much from someone based on like how the colors they choose, the font they choose. Like I remember once someone sent me their resume and it was in the style of a comic book. Like this man really sat there and it looked like a comic. And then there's a girl who like her resume was like a 3D like she came into my office and dropped it off. It was like a 3D diorama of why she should work at this company. And I was like, you know what, whether or not like when I take a look at it, this like it hits, I'm still enjoying this experience and it'll make me more inclined to call you back.
Wow. Be creative, y'all. Be creative. A whole comic book.
I love a portfolio. If it's a GitHub, it's a WordPress, it kind of goes into lowest part. It just kind of shows like that personal mark. And if I find it impressive, it's really easy for me to send that link over to the hiring manager. Like it's really simple to tell that story. And as long as your resume it can be colorful. If it's simple to read and it's not too long, I got you.
Dope. All right. So other than a resume, what are some other unique ways that you can go about getting into the opportunity of getting a tech position? Like other than just applying on LinkedIn or applying for a position, what are some other ways to find your way to a tech spot position?
Is it okay if I add something to the resume?
Sure. Do you think?
Okay. No, I was just thinking about it. I'm not the biggest fan of like a big, like crazy format, like super creative. Obviously, if you're in like UX or like, you know, some sort of design, then you might want to show it. But I'll be honest, I would say I mostly look at maybe the first 3 to 4 bullet points on each job description. Keep it plain and simple. And what I like to see is times where maybe you built something from like 0 to 1, or you work through an ambiguous time, or you like surpass your goal like by a crazy number. And so like I think back to like what Lola was saying is showing yourself, like show what like how are you different from other people in your same role. So instead of like copy and paste like the job description, actually like listing that you made it in areas you made an impact on that are unique to like what you actually did at the job. That I always like really enjoy seeing what people have like programs that they've implemented or things that they've done specific to themselves.
Love that. Thank you for that. Be creative, and you know, at the same time, you can be creative and have this comic book going, but then have no depth when we start reading it. So make sure that when we're starting to read it, we see that, okay, you got us from point A to point B. You're able to move the needle forward. So however you're able to move the needle forward, make sure that people see that. Speaking of moving the needle forward, what does your networking strategies look like from a candidate perspective? And whoever would like to take that one.
I feel like there's two different strategies going on right now. Because everything is virtual, you need a virtual networking strategy. And when things get back to our new normal, we're going to have your in-person hiring events, meetup meetings and whatnot. So I think you need two different strategies. And virtually, I think your social media brand has to be on point. Via LinkedIn, Instagram, like people should, when thinking about technology, they should think about yourself. That's what I think about. And then in person, I don't know. It's fun. Like I thrive in it. I love networking events and telling your story and meeting new people, listening. If you can somehow know more about the people going to be there, some of the managers, and try to know a little bit more. You just kind of have your set questions already in the back of your head. And I don't know. The biggest thing is just being intentional. I think that's my word of 2021. I got to work on being more intentional how I do everything, I think. But when you're talking about your networking strategy, just being very intentional about who you reach out to and what you're trying to learn from.
That's a great point. Like, even if y'all are not trying to go into tech, I think that's a great point across the board. When you are going to network with somebody, be it at LinkedIn or be it at a coffee chat, don't come to them and say, what do you do? What's your position? You should know their social security number. You should know everything about them. But no, seriously, you should know enough about them and be able to be intentional about, like, what is this conversation going to lead to? Of course, I'm not saying use them. Make sure that you can be a benefit to that person as well, because that's also going to help with your networking. But definitely know and be intentional, because everyone is still building their careers as they're helping you build your own. Anyone else got something?
Yeah, I think you make a great point. I like to say, make it about them and then make it about you. So don't lead with like what it is that you're trying to get out of this or what you're trying to accomplish. Like start building a relationship, like learn more about them, and like ask, even though like you go in like kind of knowing about them, like I be stalking, okay, but you know, you want more like background and context, like you want to put things into perspective. And so if you're thinking about yourself first, it's going to become very, very apparent. And I mean, as a recruiter, one who, like, if I go to like an innovation summit, like, and people are coming to me because like they just want the job, like it's very, very apparent. And I don't know, it feels weird. It feels like I'm being used. And so I think it's like a good idea to just be human first.
Yeah, to follow up on Lola, so I think when we like use our resources only like when we need them, it's a telltale sign that, like, you know, like it's kind of just like a one-sided relationship. And I think part of like networking and doing like your research and just like maintaining relationships, it makes it easier to actually network with people when you've already have an established relationship. It doesn't have to be like your BFF or someone that you like regularly keep in contact with, but I think you can also be like active on LinkedIn, not only when you're searching for a job, but when maybe you have content that you want to share, or maybe when you like, you give something to LinkedIn, whether it be a post that you're thinking about, something that you do in your current role, a question. Don't only log on to your resources or reach out to your resources when you actually need them. I often see candidates, people where they don't even update their LinkedIn or log on to LinkedIn unless they're actually looking for a job, or to update their resume to like look for a job. You're kind of already like, it's one of the most powerful tools in the industry. You should almost be on LinkedIn more than you are on social media.
Yes. You guys are preaching right now. We're gonna add pastor to the beginning of y'all things. So I feel like you guys all reached on such great points. Networking is, like, in a nutshell, about building relationships. And you shouldn't just be networking when you're looking to move up in your career. Networking is surrounding yourself with a network of individuals that walk like you, that are in a career path like you, or not even just a career path like you, that are career paths of intersections that can help each other get to the next level. because there's this myth about, coming to the table and the table being bigger than you, or coming to the table and feeling like somebody's position is higher than yours. But when you come to the table with what makes you shine, then we all are evenly at the table together. So you should always be networking and building your table larger, 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 and larger, so that you're never actually coming on LinkedIn and having a cold call, having a cold conversation. I'm here hosting this Techsgiving Summit because me and Ayo are frat brothers, and we're also friends that keep in contact all the time. 9 times out of 10, if you work to build honest and sincere relationships, you will never have to network a day in your life. So we're gonna get to one more question right here. So I'm gonna go one more. So I want to make this one good. Let's see. Okay. What are some effective, preferably free resources you recommend for candidates who are looking to break through in the hiring process?
Free resources.
Yeah.
So when I was looking to get into agency recruiting, and even now I'm a part of like a lot of hashtags and groups. So I'll follow hashtags on Instagram, and I'm in product manager groups. Although I'm not a product manager, I want to hear what I recruit product managers. I want to stay in tune with like what the conversations that they're having. And so like, back when I was looking to get into recruiting for agency, I followed that company's hashtag. So whenever they posted something, I was able to see it. I feel like people that really enjoy their job, they'll hashtag. Like if you don't enjoy your job, you'll probably never tag the company on your personal social media. So you can get a lot of insight just from what people hashtag. You can get a lot of insight from the industry by joining groups. Another resource that I see candidates using is YouTube. They have a lot of like actual mock interviews on YouTube right now. They even have like a link where there's like the top big tech companies and the style of interviewing, where actual real employees are running through mock interviews on there. And then I'm a big fan of just like being BFFs with your recruiter. Like a lot of people don't think that they can be good friends with us or like use us as a resource. But for me, I'm like an advocate for my candidates. So if you say, hey, Kiana, I need to have a side conversation before our interview, or I have some additional questions that I need to ask you, I'm not going to turn you down. My goal is to help you get the job. So use me as a resource as much as you can. Even if you don't feel like you qualify and you just want to have like a one-off conversation just to kind of learn more about the company and what we look for, I'm definitely open as a resource as well.
Your BFF, Kiana Brown. Love it.
Yeah. I love how you. Oh, sorry.
No. Please go ahead.
I love how you mentioned the hashtags. One of my, like, even when I want to look for jobs, one of my favorite things to do is actually search on social media, because not everything is a job post. And so like you can find a lot on like Twitter. Like people are constantly posting, and they'll do that before they like officially open a role. And you can also do that on LinkedIn too. Like back in January, I was like, like maybe I should start exploring other roles. And one of my favorite things to do was to actually search for what I wanted on LinkedIn, but as posts and not jobs. And I got a lot of resources that way. And don't sleep on recruiting agencies. A lot of people, especially like when you're into more nuanced fields like tech or innovation, you might only think that recruiting is for like HR and like accounting, finance roles, whatever. But there are some really, really good boutique firms that are out there and like want candidates, and you don't have to pay them to put your resume out there. So that's another thing. Like, please do not sleep on the agencies. They're there for a reason, and like they will literally like cape for you because they're passionate about what they do. So yeah, please don't slack.
Yes. That's cool, Lola. I actually use Reddit. I'm not gonna lie. I think every interview I had, I actually went on that company's Reddit page and I actually asked questions about the interview process. And a lot of times it'd be like current employees, I would answer questions and help you out through the process. That's what I use. I mean, that's on my phone. I love Reddit. But also Udemy. It's an online learning platform where you can learn really, I swear, anything. So anything regarding like Microsoft Azure, like implementation tools, something like I got so many certifications for my current jobs, just trying to learn more so I can have better conversations with the hiring managers and whatnot. I think those are just two free resources that I use myself.
Thank you guys. A lot of great resources. So you said Udemy?
Yeah, I would share my screen if I could. I'll try to put it in the chat though afterwards.
Appreciate that. Drop that in the chat. I definitely might need that as well. So drop that in our personal chat.
I got you.
Non-technical skills and technical skills, whatever I need to pick up. Now, those are a lot of great gems there. So Reddit, Udemy, the hashtags was very dope as well, and agencies. So the agency part as well, and the part about the recruiters who are in front of you all today. Recruiters are not here to keep you outside of the gate. Agencies are not here to keep you from getting an opportunity or getting you a job. These are your friends. They're looking to be BFFs. They're looking to help you get to your next step. That is their job. If they don't get people to come into that next step, they're not doing their job. So make sure you guys connect with these people. Don't just network because you think it's transactional. Network and build a relationship, because that'll make you a better candidate as well. Now we have a couple more questions from the audience, actually. And one question from the audience is going to be, how can a candidate step out if they're pivoting and don't have a tech background? It's like a couple part question, so we're going to start with that one.
Do you mind repeating that? I don't know if I understand what they're asking.
No worries, I got you. It says, how can a candidate stand out if they are pivoting and don't have a tech background?
How can he stand out? It depends on what part of the process.
Yeah,
right. So I'll just, I guess, I mean, if depending on what part of the process, I can go off of, let's say, once you've actually gotten an interview, right? Like, yay, you got the interview. How are you going to stand out? I think Lola talked about this in the beginning. What the storytelling piece is really important. I think a lot of times we're either if you're interviewing with a recruiter or a hiring manager, sometimes we don't always understand the company that you've worked for. Or even if we do, we don't really understand the role, and that storytelling in not like a more of a rambling kind of way, but specifically, like I like the framework STAR method for behavioral interviews, but having some sort of structure in the way that you tell the story and then bringing it home, making us feel like we were actually there working with you. You always kind of remember those candidates that have like pretty good ways of like telling a story or walking through like what happened during an ambiguous time, or like whatever the question is, you will remember it if it's attached to a great story.
Very great point. Very great point right there. Know how to tell stories. Know how to tell your story, but be concise. Like, don't ramble. Be concise.
Don't ramble.
Know how to make connections. Know how to make connections. You're gonna be great. The next part to that question is, what parts of their resume and skills should they focus on perfecting or building to get past the initial resume screen?
I mean, what I do, I mean, if you're look at the job post, look at the qualifications and align your resume towards that. The qualifications and requirements tell you everything that you're going to need for the initial resume screen. Because if you need XYZ skills, if you have them, put them on there, make them bold, make it easy for me, you know, like make it really do the homework on your end, so it's easy for me to send it over to the hiring manager for him to review, him or her to review. So you can stand out in that way regarding that. And also, the second thing is also looking at the company culture. What's important to them, maybe translate to the resume. Like, what do you have going on with your current company, ERGs? Like, what are your responsibilities in that way? Trying to align it.
Very, very solid. Very solid.
Yeah, I have just one thing to add to that I just thought about. So like there's like you do a search for like your people that are in your current role or current companies on LinkedIn that may work for a company you want to work for now. Look at those candidates' profile and like how did they get there, right? So like for example, if you look at my profile and you go, wait, she worked at Liz, then she worked in banking. How is she at Facebook now in technical recruiting? And just looking at that career trajectory to see like if you're currently working at Liz or currently in sales, retail banking, figuring out, okay, how can I position myself similar to someone like that? So look up example profiles of people that are in positions that you're in now that came from where you came from.
Yes, big gems, big gems. Last part of this is what weaknesses do you notice that are common in non-CS backgrounds?
I think just in general, like if you're looking to move from one industry to another, the most common error I see is a failure to connect the dots. And I think this goes back to the origins of storytelling, but this is a little different. Like, okay, for example, you used to work in fashion, now you want to work in tech. Like, have you done anything so far? Like, can you translate like your current role into what you're gonna do in the next role? And so people like leave gaps in their resumes when they're looking to pivot. I see oftentimes people are just like it looks like they use the resume that they used to apply for their last job, except they added the role that they're currently in. And it's like, there's nothing on here that would make me think that you're even ready to do this kind of work, make this kind of pivot. And it makes me sad because I'm like, yo, like, I'm pretty sure you could do it, but like, I don't have any proof. So I think like really being bold about it, being bold about the why and the how, and making it so even if it's in like the summary section of your resume, or if you put it on your cover letter, like I want to see how you're able to justify the pivot, if that makes sense.
Lola, I took your advice. My story, I went from sales at Oracle, consulting at Deloitte, and now recruiting at Microsoft, and I followed your recipe to the T. I told my story in my cover letter, in my description, up top, my statement. That's what I did. So I am a testament of Lola's story. It works.
But it works.
It works.
Hashtag justify your pivot, man. All right. So next up, we got where do you draw the line between recruiters, hiring managers are extremely busy considering the job? Let me reword this a little bit. Let me say where do you draw the line between recruiters and hiring managers that are extremely busy considering the job market and a number of applicants for each opening versus being ghosted? I think what they're trying to say is where do you draw the line between thinking that like recruiters or hiring managers are busy versus ghosting?
And this is in regards to being ghosted?
Yeah, like are you being ghosted or are you really busy?
It depends. Sometimes. No, I mean,
I'm not left on red.
No, it depends. I think sometimes we're both busy, and then I always want to get back to people, even if I feel like they're not a good fit. But sometimes I forget, or sometimes there's things that come up. Some, I don't know. I think just having patience and continuing to follow up. But I think also another important thing when you're doing your research to see like where you fit in the company, it could be like maybe you weren't a good fit for my specific role, but if you already done your homework to figure out where you fit in the company, then maybe a couple of different orgs or positions that you'll be a good fit in. And so like it could also be like, hey, Kiana, I see that like maybe I'm not a good fit for this role, but here's some other roles that I was looking at. So maybe I could pivot your resume elsewhere, or maybe I could put you in contact with another recruiter that works on a different type of role. But I think it comes from like just doing some research on where you fit in, and then also like what's important in the market right now. So it could be like, I don't know, we're going through COVID, and so like healthcare is important, or like regulatory affairs, or there's other industries that we're looking at that we need people from those industries depending on like what's going on in the market, and that creates a sense of urgency for us, right? Like so just kind of knowing where you fit in based off of your skills and our like in priorities in the company that you want to work for.
That's a fact. That's a very great point. Anyone else have something to put on that?
What was the question again? Can you repeat it for me?
Oh man, that was a tough question. No, play it. Basically, say I'm giving you my resume. I'm applying for a job. Are you busy or are you ghosting?
Oh man, I'm busy, man. No, it's not really. It's the quantity of candidates and how many people want to work. And I've never felt so popular in my life until I changed my LinkedIn profile to recruiter. I promise you, I got like 4,000 just requests for connection requests. I'm like, it's just like so overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I'm still finding the balancing act. I don't mean to be fake, but still gotta eat and work and then actually like live my life. So I'm not ghosting you, but there is a process where I think next year I'm gonna set up 15-minute chats via Calendly. I'm gonna try to do that. I'm a morning person, so I like to talk to people in the morning. So doing that maybe 2 or 3 times out the week. So it's a process. It's just like there's a lot of people trying to work at these companies, and I don't mean to ghost you. So sorry if you want to call. I'm sorry.
All right. Lola, do you have a take on that? Are you good?
Yeah, I think it's really funny that you say that, because like when people just out of the blue, like it's people reaching out to me and I'm just like, I don't know what to say to you, especially when I'm like, you can't work here. Like there's nothing on your profile that's like, but when you're in the process, like if you're already in the process, like we brought you in for interviews, or if I've spoken to you at any point, I can say that I do not ghost people. But then there are times where like last year, when we were acquired by Venture, I had some very lofty hiring goals so that we could hire people before we transitioned in, and then had to switch hiring processes. And so I was busy. I had so much work to do. And sometimes like I would forget. And so if someone wasn't like a standout candidate, it wasn't that I was going to not reach out to them, because like I had a spreadsheet to track, but like they would be lower on the list of priorities, I guess. And so the people who the hiring managers were really, really excited about, I had to be more high touch with them. And so if a candidate has felt like I was ghosting them, if you're here, sorry. But because of like, there's people like, I guess the company that like the subdivision I work in, like people like really want to work there. So they'll keep reaching out to me. And so sometimes like that kind of will help me on track, because then they're like, hey, it's been like a week, I haven't heard back. Do you have any updates? And I'm like, oh no, like I forgot to reach out to them. So it really usually is about like being busy, and like whether someone's like a higher priority versus someone who's like, okay, maybe like we can get back to you after we're done with all of this.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why it's important to like job search, not like when you're not looking, or not waiting until you actually need a job to search, being in a comfortable space, so that if you do get ghosted, well, not ghosting, but if you don't hear back from a recruiter or a hiring manager, it's not like your world is going to end because you need a job to make money, right? It's like you have time, you can cultivate the relationship for a bit to really learn, like, are you one of the top tier candidates, or is it going to take a while to kind of find like the perfect fit? So that's, just keeping it more of a passive interaction versus this aggressive kind of like, I need a job.
Yeah. And usually like the people that like I want the most are the people who already have jobs.
Yeah.
And piggyback on everything they just said, and that's why it's so important. I feel like just building out your brand and focus on what you can give. If you're putting out great content, on LinkedIn, cool tips about your industry, about your current job and what you're doing. I'm like, oh, I heard her talk about some cool stuff before. Let me make sure that if she reaches out to me, you know, I'm able to respond back. So that's just important, just putting out great content because people are watching you no matter what, you know, if you're putting out great things, I believe so.
LinkedIn influencers, he's greenlighting you right now. He's greenlighting the LinkedIn influencers.
No, it's real, man. No, because I love how people are making that transition and putting out great content. Like you can learn so much, honestly.
No, you do. It's really beautiful to see. Not to segue out of our conversation, but I think like what we're seeing now is like not just entertainers giving us content. We're able to digest like what a nurse is doing, what a psychiatrist is doing in so many different ways. Everyone's seeing and showing their process, which is important. There's so much meat in what you all just said. I don't even know how to break that down, but definitely I would say Lola said, follow up respectfully. Like, make sure you continue to follow respectfully. We're going to add that in. Make sure that you follow up respectfully. Continue to follow up because, as Aaron said, they may or may not be ghosting you. That is still a question. But they're really busy, and that is the only reason that they could possibly be ghosting you. To Kiana, like, the point is, like, if you want to be a part of a company, the same way how you go to network and you need to, as Lola said earlier, stalk them and know who that person is in and out, you want to be a part of a company. Before you go and start a relationship with an individual or a company, know what you're getting into. So do your research, know that company, know what that company needs, know what they like, know their favorite color. And then when you come to the table, you're going to know what's going on and you're going to be able to fit yourself right into position as a puzzle piece to that table. We got a couple more questions here. Let's see. Sure we have. Oh, so talking about content. How much separation should there be between our personal and professional social media profiles?
I feel like Instagram made close friends for a reason. But it also depends, right? Because for me, like my company, like the people that I work with, it's so like everyone is so they want to be a part of your life outside of work. And like, I think in many ways it's my fault because like the culture that I tried to create is like, listen, we're bringing our full selves to work. Like we're being like, it's holistic. Like we don't want you to feel like they have to be these harsh boundaries. Personally, I'll post any and everything if they like, let them say anything because I'm HR. But for those of you who are not HR, I would say make use of like the close friends feature if you don't want to like have that harsh separation. I mean, people don't really be on Facebook like that with their colleagues, but like for things like Twitter and Instagram, if you don't want people to find you, make it private or have like a Finsta. So I think there's ways. I just think it's when you start working somewhere, you kind of can gauge the kind of energy people are going to be on, and then you can tailor your social media to that. Because social media is a huge part of our lives. Like whether or not, even if you don't have social media, it's still a part of your life. Like, so I think it's just, it depends on the kind of people you work with.
Definitely. Anybody else want to tap into that?
You can go ahead, Kiana.
So I was just going to say working for an actual social media company, that's a hard one for me because like instantly as you join, they want to know what's your Instagram handle, what's like my Facebook UI is sometimes connected to my internal workplace. And I'm just like, this is just a little too much right now. But to be honest, like Lola said, I do want to bring my whole self to work. And as I started to develop in my career, I'm naturally not really interested in some of the stuff that I was interested in, like in college. It's just natural. So it starts to be just like a progression where you'll start to not like post certain things or go on these weird rants when you start to develop and your focus is somewhere else. So while I have a hard time separating the two, because sometimes I want to post things about my family and I don't want necessarily my coworkers to like talk about it. On the opposite end of that, it does kind of create a better relationship with my coworkers. So recently, I'll just give a personal, story, but my dad passed away recently. And so it's been a real rough time for me. But I've gotten so much support from like my personal community and my work community because my coworkers saw how much I was like friends with my dad, how much time I spent with my dad. And so they've been even more understanding of like me needing grievance time, more like helpful and like workload balance. And so while I would say like, yes, you could separate the two, I don't know. I think it's easier to try to like lessen the things that you post that are like, if your manager or someone were to see this, even if your mom were to see this, like, would you be like proud of it? No. Then maybe you should kind of second guess whether you should post it, because this stuff is going out into the world. And when you go up in your career, it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back. If you ever want like a position and you feel like something you post, like that should tell you, hey, maybe you shouldn't be posting it if you feel like down the line you would be embarrassed if someone saw it.
Most definitely. And my condolences definitely.
Thank you.
Your dad.
Of course.
Thank you.
To answer that question, I feel like less is more. I think it's just easier, less of a headache. You never know what someone might comment, and then I feel like people are I don't say stalkers, but they just go press people's pages and like they might go on your comments and then, oh, what your friend does that, and you know what they might post and what's on their page. It's a rabbit hole, man. So I think less is definitely more. Keep it clean, less of a headache later on.
I agree with that. I guess what everybody is saying is essentially less is more. It definitely helps to be able to have that like openness with your coworkers, to not feel like you're hiding a piece of yourself when you're at home and come to work and you gotta fit this type of mold. And I'm glad to see that like it seems that most job places are moving away from that. But as Lola said and Kiana said, everybody pretty much said, move with caution. Move with caution. Make sure that you learn your environment, learn the people you're around, and then you're going to know who you can open up to or where you can find that safe space and where you can't. As far as social media goes, there are a lot of, I think she laid out like 10 of them. Finsta is one. We got several different ways that you guys can have, your social media on the quiet and be yourself and everything of that sort. But then for a professional standpoint, as Kiana said, just, live your life, and there's slowly going to be things that you're going to grow out of that you're not going to continue to want to post about, to rant about, or go to Miami about, or anything of that sort. So just be cognizant, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see. We got like 1 to 2 more questions. Thank you guys so much for taking your time. And I know we've been on for about an hour now. Thank you guys so much for taking your time out and being so open. You're doing phenomenal. But let's see. Back to a couple tech questions. We have, how can we make our resumes unique without being missed by the ATS systems?
Okay, so I'm new to recruiting, right? And on the other side, I always hear about these ATS systems. You're like, do all this stuff for the resume to make sure you get these keywords in, so you're not automatically rejected. I'm like, I don't, for my company, that's not true. Like, I literally go through all these resumes, like look through all of them. Like, I'm going through it. I want to make sure I'm doing my job right. I'm new to the game. I want to make sure like I'm not cutting someone off. So me personally, go through the qualifications for the job post. Make sure you try to include that as much as possible in your current resume. That's the big steps I got for you in that regard, though. But there is no ATS system. I don't know. I don't know what that is, to be honest. It's not real.
Well,
I tell you, you're making that face, but hey, man, I'll be going through it. I do my job. I earn my paycheck. I promise you.
So we do actually have an ATS system where we put up a job posting, you apply, and then maybe you get rejected. But like I said, it could be maybe you apply for the wrong role. And so just because you get rejected, that doesn't mean you can't, that's the end of the opportunity. There's so many other ways that we look for candidates. Like Aaron said, like most companies, especially large companies, most companies have some recruiters doing some sort of like proactive outreach. And so maybe you did get rejected, but you just need to find a point of contact or a way to get past that. So don't take the first rejection as like, oh, that means it's over. I can't, like, I see candidates get rejected in our ATS system all the time. I'm like, this candidate is bomb. I'm reaching out. Like, I saw that you applied for this role, but what about this role? You know, so like applying just puts your resume in our system, and whoever rejected, we don't know who rejected the resume, and we don't know for what reason. So find out if there's a way that you can get past that.
Yeah. And to add to that, sometimes it really irritates me, but like there will be people applying and then they'll hit me up, or people will hit me up and then I'm like, we literally have a job posting, like please apply. But even though it irritates me because I'm every single day, like sometimes I'll have people reaching out to me like on a daily basis. It's the same people and I'm like, boundaries. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they're at the top of my mind because I'm like, oh, I spoke to this person like every single day on LinkedIn. I remember them. And so I think to put it in Kofi's words, respectfully, follow up. Like once you've put in an application, like do some research on LinkedIn about who's the recruiter, who the hiring manager could potentially be. If you reach out to the wrong person, they'll usually tell you who the right person is, and you can then hit them up. And it's a great way to kind of like have them be on the lookout for your resume. So if you're someone who's maybe got rejected by the system, like if someone applied and they told me they applied, but I didn't see their resume, I'd be looking out for it. And then I'd reach out to them like, hey, like I didn't see it. Like, do you think you can send it to me personally? And and I've had people get hired that way. So.
And also one thing I've learned too about recruiting, if you're looking for recruiters to reach out to, also look for talent sourcers too. They're such a great help. I wish I would have used them or looked for them on LinkedIn Connecting, but their job is to find talent though. So if you reach out to them proactively, because there are going to be so many networking events, virtual networking events are happening over the next year or so, reach out to them and you can be plugged into their pipeline. So I think that's one also great tip.
Perfect. A lot of great tips here. There's definitely going to be a lot of networking events. If you don't got Clubhouse, get on Clubhouse. There's going to be a lot of great networking events going on digitally throughout this year. Network, LinkedIn, respectfully DM these recruiters respectfully. This is so important because if you respectfully DM a recruiter, then getting past, as Kiana said, getting past that ATS system that does or does not exist is going to be able to happen, because they might be behooved to hit you up and say, okay, you didn't make it past the ATS system if their company does have that, and then be able to override that and help you get into position, as Lola has definitely seen. And just note that some recruiters are just very busy, because in Microsoft, Aaron does not have an ATS system, so it does not exist for his company. So be cognizant, it does not exist for certain companies.
I Google ATS systems. I'm very new. I'm very new. I swear I am. I just got my first Rex like three months ago. Like I'm so new. So we do have this thing called qualifications, and ask you, you have X amount of years of experience. If you put no, you're gonna get no. You're gonna get disqualified. But yes.
Now I was trying to go to bat for you, bro.
I don't want you to fall on my sword, man. I'm new though. I got that new card, so I'm gonna use it. I use it a lot. I'm trying so many different things, man. I swear.
That's all good. Nah, I respect the transparency, my guy. Thank you for that.
I don't know if you guys, for the audience that's listening, heard that Lola said most of the people she wants, they already have jobs, right? Yeah. So they didn't apply. Like, come on now. Like, they didn't apply. So we shouldn't be worried about the ATS system, because most of the candidates that we want are not really coming from ATS applicant tracking system. They're, coming from other resources. Most of the candidates that recruiters want are coming, they're actively working, they're super passive in their search. So let's figure out other strategies outside of the ATS.
That's a fact. And guys, we're going to start that off. So that was a last gem. If you guys have any last words, Kiana, you can go again as well, that you would like to share with everybody before you all leave. Just go ahead and say, tell them where they can contact you at, and then of course some last words.
I feel like last words for me would be like, get very clear on what it is that you want. I see a lot of people in the job search who don't know anything about the companies they're applying for. Like literally, like I'll call people for a screening and they're like, yeah, so what is it that you guys do exactly? And I'm like, you didn't even check out our website. And so it's just please get very clear on what you want, because it's easier for you to determine whether or not the company is going to be a good fit. It's not just about like you getting an offer. You're trying to determine if you're going to be happy long term. You want to see how the culture is like. And when you know what you want, it will be easier to determine what you don't want, right? Like if you know you want a Tesla and someone offered you a Honda, like would you accept that knowing that you really, really want a Tesla and you can get it if you keep working? You know what I mean? That's a weird analogy, but like I just for illustrative purposes. So please like just get very, very clear and then use that as your guiding post to tailor your resume, to tailor your cover letter, to tailor how you speak to recruiters. And don't just speak to recruiters. Google or LinkedIn, search other people who work at the company, talk to them about how they enjoy their role, talk to them about what it is that you do, and you can use that to actually get in as a referral. And we prioritize, at Accenture especially, we prioritize referrals. But it's really easy when you know exactly what it is that you're looking for. If you want to contact me, you can DM me on Instagram at Lola Folletti, same as on LinkedIn. And yeah, if you guys want to chat, like I'm open, so reach out.
Thank you so much.
I can go. I think my last gem is going through this process is be your authentic self. A lot of times in the recruitment process, I can attest to this. My first time getting rejected at Microsoft, I wasn't being my authentic self, and it came through. I was nervous. I'm like, I had a thought in my head of what they wanted, and I went for that. But that was the worst thing I could ever do, because everyone has their own experiences that make them themselves, and that's what makes them perfect, and what had a unique skill they could bring to the company. So constantly be yourself, and you'd be surprised with hiring managers, even if you don't have if you're not the best candidate technically wise, if you're yourself and they think you have the growth mindset, they will definitely take a chance on you, I believe so. So be yourself and truly just bring that out during your interview. And if you want to reach out to me, LinkedIn, Aaron Brown, Morehouse, or Microsoft, you'll find me, and put in your message like TechSgiving, so I definitely know, because I love that organization, and then definitely donate, because they're doing some amazing things.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, guys.
I guess my last gem would be more of like just motivation. Interviewing and job searching is like really tough, and we can get down on ourselves by getting all of these like rejections and start to feel like an imposter or like we're not good enough. And start to be a little envious, and that can come through in your tone when you actually do speak to someone. So I know it may sound hard to keep like a positive and motivating like vibe, but that kind of goes a long way when you actually do get in contact with someone. It goes a long way in how you message people. So just try to stay positive. Most of the people that we actually hire, it's not their first time interviewing with us. I can't share the specific data, but it's usually towards their second, third, sometimes even fourth interview. So if this is your first go round, dust yourself off and keep it pushing.
Yo, you guys, thank you so much for being so authentic, so open, so vivid, and giving so many gems. Make sure you guys follow them, contact them on their social media respectfully. But I respectfully thank you guys so much for sharing yourselves with us today. Wishing you guys a great weekend and a great career, and we will definitely all be in contact. All right, y'all have a good one.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting y'all as well. Bye.